The files loaded one by one, 53 of them. High-definition exports, each labeled with a date and a timestamp, pulled directly from our home security server and compressed into a folder titled simply, with my first name. I sat in the blue-white glow of my home office monitor, and I did not move for a long time. The first clip was dated 14 months ago. I recognized the bedroom. Immediately, our bedroom, our furniture, the reading lamp on my side of the bed that I had picked out at an estate sale the summer we moved in. I watched for 40 seconds and then I stopped watching because 40 seconds was more than enough. I opened the PDF folder instead. The documents inside were bank transfer confirmations, 17 of them, spanning the last 2 years, each one showing a wire transfer from our joint investment account to a private holding entity I had never heard of, in increments carefully sized to avoid automatic fraud flags. The total, when I added the column on the last page, was $231,000. My hands were completely still on the keyboard. I picked up my phone and called the attorney. She answered on the second ring. I said 4 sentences. I told her I had documentation of sustained marital infidelity captured on home security footage, financial records showing systematic asset concealment across a 24-month period, and a USB drive that had been preserved and delivered to me by a third-party witness. I told her I needed emergency account protection filed before morning. There was a brief pause on the line. "Send me the drive contents in the next hour," she said. "I'll have the freeze petition ready to sign by midnight." I looked at the screen. 53 folders, $231,000, 14 months of Tuesday afternoons while I was at the office and my children were downstairs in the kitchen learning to read. "I'll send it now," I said. By the time my husband's credit card was declined at a restaurant the following evening, I had already changed the locks. But to explain how a Thursday afternoon became the end of a marriage, I need to go back to the beginning, to Alina. She came to us when my daughter was 11 months old. I had returned to work after maternity leave feeling the specific, crushing guilt of a mother who loves her child completely and also needs, for the survival of her sanity and her career, to hand that child to someone else for 10 hours a day. The agency sent 3 candidates. The first 2 were perfectly competent. Alina was something different. She was 34 at the time, soft-spoken, with a stillness about her that children seem to recognize before adults do, the kind of calm that isn't passivity but actual presence, an ability to be fully in a room rather than just occupying it. My daughter, who had been fussing through both previous interviews, climbed into Alina's lap within 5 minutes and fell asleep against her shoulder. My husband, Daniel, was the one who said, "We don't need to see anyone else." I agreed. Alina became, over 5 years, something that resists the word employee. She knew which shelf my son kept his library books on, and that he needed 10 minutes of quiet after school before he could talk about his day. She knew my daughter was afraid of the drain in the bathtub and had developed a whole bath time ritual to work around it without making it a bigger thing. She knew I took my coffee with 1 sugar on regular mornings and none when I had an early call because the sugar made me talk too fast. She was, in the precise and irreplaceable way that the word is so rarely accurate, family, which is why, when she began to change, I noticed. It started sometime in late spring, a new quietness, not her natural stillness, but something heavier, more deliberate. She stopped meeting my eyes when I came home in the evenings. She answered my questions in full sentences but without her usual warmth, the way a person answers when they are paying careful attention to what they are and are not saying. Twice I came home to find her standing at the kitchen window looking out at the backyard with her arms crossed, and both times she heard me come in and rearranged herself quickly, smoothly, the way people do when they have been thinking about something they don't want to share. I assumed personal stress, a family matter. I asked once gently if everything was all right and she said yes. She was just a little tired and I accepted that because I was also tired and because I trusted her and because the thought that the source of her discomfort might be living in my own house had not yet occurred to me. I know now that she had been living with what she knew for almost a year by then. I know now what it cost her to stay. The Thursday she resigned was overcast and cold, the particular gray of early autumn when the light goes flat and the day never quite brightens. My son had soccer practice in the afternoon, and my daughter had a reading group at the library, which meant Alina would have had the house to herself from 2:30 to 5, which I now understand is why she chose that day. She was waiting in my study when I came home at 5:15. She was sitting in the chair across from my desk, not behind it, not at the window, but in the guest chair with her coat already on and her bag on her lap, and her hands folded over the top of it in a way that told me she had been rehearsing this for some time. On my desk was a white envelope with my name, written on it in her careful handwriting. "I need to resign," she said, before I had even set down my bag. I stopped in the doorway. "Alina, I'm sorry." Her voice was controlled but thin, the way a voice gets when control is the only thing holding it together. "I know the timing is terrible. I know this isn't fair to you or the children. I am so sorry." I came in, I sat down. I set my bag on the floor and I looked at her, really. Looked at her, and what I saw on her face was not the tired unhappiness I had attributed to personal stress over the past months. It was something more specific: guilt, the particular expression of someone who has been holding a truth that belongs to someone else and is about to either hand it over or carry it for the rest of their life. "Talk to me," I said. She shook her head. "I can't not." She stopped, looked at her hands. "I wrote everything I could write in the envelope, but I have something else, something you need to see for yourself." She reached into the front pocket of her coat. The USB drive was small and flat, the ordinary kind, nothing distinctive about it. She held it across the desk to me with both hands, as if the size of the gesture needed to match the weight of what was on it. "Everything is labeled," she said. "By date, the video files are in the first folder, the documents are in the second." She paused. "He tried to pay me to delete them last March. He came to me in the kitchen when you were traveling, and he put a cash envelope on the counter, and he said the security logs from the previous weekend needed to disappear." Her jaw tightened slightly. "That's when I started downloading copies." I looked at the drive in my hand. The plastic casing was warm from her coat pocket. "He had a plan," she said quietly, "to remove me. He was going to say I had stolen from the household jewelry, small things he would claim he could prove. He needed me gone before." She stopped. Her eyes had gone bright. "I couldn't let him do that, and I couldn't keep watching you not know." She stood. She picked up her bag. At the door, she paused without turning around. "Your children are extraordinary," she said. "Please take care of them." And then the front door opened and clicked shut and she was gone. I sat at my desk for a long time after that. The envelope was still on the desk in front of me. Alina's handwriting, my name. I did not open it yet. Outside the window, the afternoon had finished its attempt at brightness and settled fully into gray, the street below going quiet as the evening came in. I thought about the cash envelope on the kitchen counter. I thought about the March weekend I had spent in Seattle for a conference, 3 days, the children, with Alina, Daniel at home. I thought about Alina standing at the kitchen window with her arms crossed, not looking at me when I came in. I picked up the USB drive. I went upstairs to my home office. I closed the door. I turned the small lock on the handle, the one I had never used before, that I had always thought was slightly excessive for a room in your own house. I sat down at my desk. I looked at the drive for a moment. Then I plugged it in. The folder appeared on my desktop in under 3 seconds. White icon, clean. Label, my name again in the file name field, as if Alina had wanted to make sure at every possible step that this was addressed to the right person. Inside, 2 subfolders: video files, financial documents. I moved the cursor to the first one. My hand was perfectly steady. I held it there above the icon in the silence of the locked room. And then I clicked. The first clip was 14 months old. I know the bedroom and the footage the way I know my own face, the exact shade of the walls, the particular way the afternoon light fell through the curtains. I had chosen the reading lamp on my nightstand with the slight leftward tilt. It had developed after my son knocked it over playing in our room 2 summers ago. I watched for 40 seconds. Then I closed that file and sat with my hands flat on the desk for a moment before I opened the next one. I watched that one for less time. By the sixth clip, I had stopped watching the footage itself and started watching only the timestamps, 14 months of them. The pattern that emerged was not random, it was scheduled almost. Tuesday and Thursday afternoons predominantly. The hours between 2 and 5. The hours when I was at the office and the children were at school, and Alina, I now understood, had been downstairs in the kitchen or the garden or anywhere that wasn't upstairs, knowing what was happening above her, carrying the knowledge the way you carry something that doesn't belong to you and can't be put down. I closed the video folder. I did not cry. I want to be precise about this, not because tears would have been wrong, but because they did not come. What moved through me instead was something colder and more structural, the feeling of a load-bearing wall being removed from a building, not collapse exactly, the thing standing for a moment, by momentum alone, and then a very quiet, very complete reevaluation of every surface, every room, every assumption about what had been holding the whole thing up. I opened the financial documents folder. Alina had organized everything with the careful instinct of someone who understood, perhaps better than I had, what kind of proof would matter in a legal context. The first document was a screenshot of our joint investment account dashboard, dated 22 months ago, the account balance, the transaction history, and a wire transfer confirmation to an entity called Meridian Holds LLC that I had never seen referenced anywhere in our shared finances. The amount was $14,000. The second document was another transfer, $11,000, different date, same destination. I scrolled. There were 17 transfers in total. I had known the final figure from the cold open of this story, from the moment I sat down and began to understand what I was looking at, $231,000, but knowing the number as an abstraction and scrolling through 17 individual confirmations, each one representing a moment when Daniel had sat somewhere in this house, or in his car or in his office, and made a deliberate, considered choice to move our money somewhere I couldn't see it. Those are two different experiences. 14,000, 11,000, 22,000, 9,500, carefully sized to stay beneath the automatic reporting threshold. He understood the thresholds. He had moved money around them the way water moves around stones, not forcefully but persistently, finding the path of least resistance with the patience of someone who believes they have unlimited time. The destination entity, Meridian Holds LLC, appeared on no document I had ever signed. I pulled up a business registry search on my second monitor while the documents were still open on the first. Meridian Holds LLC had been incorporated quietly 26 months ago, in a state we had no professional connection to. The registered agent was a formation service. The listed director was a name I didn't recognize. I sat back. 26 months ago, Daniel had been planning this. We had taken a family vacation that summer, a week at a lake house, the children in life jackets learning to kayak, Daniel grilling things on the back deck in the evenings, easy and unhurried. I had photographs from that trip on my phone. Still, the children squinting in the sun, Daniel's arm around my shoulders, all of us looking like exactly what I had believed we were. He had filed the LLC paperwork 3 weeks before we left for that trip. The last item in the financial folder was not a bank document. It was a text screenshot. Alina had captured it from a phone left open on the kitchen counter. Daniel's phone, screen up, message preview visible. The recipient was listed only as M. The message, sent on a Sunday evening 4 months ago, reads, "The nanny situation needs to be handled before the end of the quarter. I've documented 2 incidents, should be enough to terminate without severance. Once she's gone, we can move the rest without anyone in the house to notice." I read it twice. Then I understood what Alina had told me at the door, not just that she had chosen to protect me, but that she had protected herself in the same motion, because she had known what was coming for her. Daniel had been building a case against her, manufactured incidents carefully logged, designed to create a paper trail that would justify firing her without financial obligation and replace her with someone who would not notice or would notice and not care, or would be selected precisely because their discretion had already been purchased. He had tried to buy her silence in March. When she hadn't stayed bought, he had decided to remove her instead. And Alina, steady, quiet Alina who had watched my daughter fall asleep on her shoulder when she was 11 months old, had walked into that kitchen, looked at the cash envelope on the counter, and chosen a different path. She had gone home that evening and started downloading files. I called the attorney at 7:43. Her name was Patricia Sterling, and she had been recommended to me 2 years earlier by a colleague who had used her in a corporate litigation matter and described her with some admiration as someone who treated opposing counsel the way a surgeon treats an infection, not with hostility exactly, but with the complete professional intention of removal. I had filed her number in my phone, under a neutral label, and never expected to use it. She answered on the second ring. "This is Sterling. My name is," I said my name. "You were recommended to me by a colleague. I need to discuss an emergency asset protection matter tonight." A brief pause, not hesitation, recalibration. "Tell me what you have," she said. I told her I was concise. I told her about the USB drive, the 53 video files, the 17 financial transfer documents, the LLC formation, the text message screenshot, and the planned termination of our household employee to eliminate a witness. I told her the total figure. I told her the time span. I heard the faint sound of a keyboard beginning to move on her end. "The footage," she said, "captured on a home security system registered to the marital property." "Yes." "And the financial documents show transfers from a jointly held account to a private entity you did not authorize or have knowledge of." "Correct." "And you have a third-party witness who can testify to the cash bribe attempt and the asset movement." "Yes." "Send me everything in the next 45 minutes, she said. "I will have emergency freeze petition language drafted within 2 hours. We can have it in front of a duty judge tonight." Another keystroke. "Does your husband have any reason to suspect you have this information?" "No," I said. "He thinks Alina left quietly." "Good, don't change anything in the house, don't move any accounts, don't contact him tonight. Let him believe tomorrow is a normal day." "I understand." "One more thing," her voice was even, precise, without drama. "The third party witness, the nanny, she needs to be reachable. Her testimony will be significant." "I'll call her tonight." "Good," the keyboard stopped. "I'll be in touch by 10. I set the phone down. The home office was very quiet around me. The monitor cast its blue-white light across the desk, across Alina's folder still open on the screen, across my hands resting on the keyboard. Outside, I heard Daniel's car in the driveway, the garage door, the familiar sound of the engine cutting out, his footsteps. On the back porch, the particular rhythm of them, heavier on the right. Habit so ordinary I had stopped hearing it years ago, and was hearing it now, with the strange, total clarity of something being recorded for the last time. The back door opened. "Hey," his voice from the kitchen, easy, unremarkable. "Kids in bed." "Just got them down," I called back. My voice was perfectly normal. It surprised me slightly how normal it was. "Long day," he said. "The usual," I said. "I have some work to finish up, don't wait up." A pause, then, "Okay, I'll leave the light on." His footsteps moved toward the living room. The television murmured on. I turned back to my screen. I called Alina. She picked up on the first ring, as if she had been holding the phone waiting. She didn't say hello, she said, "You opened it." "I opened it," I said. A long exhale on her end. "The attorney needs you available to provide testimony," I said. "Your account of the cash bribe attempt, the text message you photographed, the pattern of behavior you witnessed. Are you able to do that?" "Yes," no hesitation. "I've been ready to do that for months." "Alina," I stopped. There was a great deal I wanted to say and very little of it belonged in this conversation, in this practical, procedural moment. "Thank you." She was quiet for a moment. "Take care of the children," she said again, the same words as the doorway. As if that was the only thing that had ever actually mattered to her. "I will," I said. Patricia Sterling called back at 9:58. She had the petition language ready. She walked me through it on the phone in 20 minutes, precise and thorough, explaining each clause with the calm efficiency of someone who had done this before and understood that what a client needed in this moment was not reassurance but information. The petition covered emergency freezing of the joint investment account, the joint checking account, the home equity line, and any accounts linked to Meridian Holds LLC, which her paralegal had already cross-referenced to 3 additional financial instruments I hadn't found in Alina's documents. She had found more than I had in 2 hours working from the same materials. I signed the digital petition documents at 11:41. I uploaded the signed copies to her secure portal. She confirmed receipt at 11:43. The duty judge will review tonight, she said. Given the documented asset, movement and the flight risk implied by the LLC structure, I expect approval. Before morning, you'll have confirmation by email. And he won't know, I said. Not until it's already done. Not until his card declines, she said. I thanked her and ended the call. I sat for a while in the quiet of the office. Downstairs, the television had gone off. The house had settled into its nighttime sounds, the particular creaks and adjustments of a structure cooling, the faint hum of the refrigerator, the sound of a faucet running briefly in the main bathroom and then stopping. Daniel going to bed. I looked at the monitor. Alina's folder, 53 files, 17 transfers, 1 text message, the whole architecture of a secret life organized and labeled, and handed to me by the only person in this house who had chosen, when it mattered, to be on the right side. At 12:07 in the morning, an email arrived from Patricia Sterling's office. The subject line read, "Emergency asset freeze order confirmed." I read it once. I closed the laptop. I turned off the office light, and in the darkness, in the silence of a house that was already, in every way, that counted mine, I sat for a moment and let the night be exactly as quiet as it was. Tomorrow, Daniel would wake up and make coffee and check his phone and feel, for the last time, like a man whose plan was still intact. He had approximately 14 hours left of that feeling. I intended to use every one of them. I woke before the alarm. 5:53. The room was dark, the house still holding onto the last of the night. Beside me, Daniel was asleep on his back, one arm across his forehead, breathing with the deep, untroubled rhythm of a man who believed his accounts were full and his secrets were safe. I looked at the ceiling for a moment, then I got up, went downstairs, and made coffee. The morning moved the way mornings do, when you are the only person in the room who knows what day it actually is. Daniel came down at 7:15, showered, dressed for the office, reaching past me for the coffee pot with the automatic ease of 8 years of shared kitchens. He asked if I had seen his blue folder, the one with the Hartwell proposal. I told him it was on the hall table. He thanked me. He poured his coffee. He stood at the counter for a moment, scrolling through his phone with the particular distracted energy of someone reviewing a to-do list, and I watched him from across the kitchen and felt something I had not expected to feel. Not anger, not grief exactly, something closer to the strange, disorienting clarity you get when a magic trick is explained to you, the moment when you understand the mechanism and the wonder collapses cleanly and completely, and what's left is just the trick, just the hands, just the ordinary, slightly disappointing reality of how it was done. All along. Big day, I asked. Couple of meetings. He rinsed his mug. Might be late. Okay, I said. He kissed my cheek on his way to the door. His coat, his keys, the blue folder. From the hall table, the door closed, the sound of his car reversing out of the driveway. I poured my second cup of coffee and called Patricia Sterling. Order is confirmed and active as of this morning, she said without preamble. All 4 accounts are frozen. The Meridian LLC instruments are flagged with the court. His corporate card is linked to the joint line. That will decline as of this afternoon. And the eviction component, I said. The property injunction gives you sole occupancy right pending final proceedings. We can have a deputy available this evening if you need enforcement support. Pleased, I said. 7 o'clock. I'll arrange it. I set the phone down and finished my coffee in the quiet kitchen. The children were still upstairs. In 40 minutes I would wake them for school, make their lunches, drive them to the building where their ordinary Tuesday would proceed. Exactly as planned, insulated from all of this by my deliberate, careful effort to keep the machinery of their lives running smoothly while the machinery of everything else came apart. That was the only part that cost me anything those days. Not Daniel, the children, but they were the reason the whole thing had to be done correctly. He called at 4:17. I was in a client meeting and let it go to voicemail. He called again at 4:29, then a text, "Something's wrong with the accounts, call me." I finished the meeting. At 4:51, another text, "My card was declined, corporate card too. What is going on, call me now." I read it. I set the phone face down on my desk and completed my end of day notes. At 5:30, I picked up the children from their after-school programs. My daughter told me about a project she was building in art class, a diorama of the ocean floor with a deep-sea anglerfish she was particularly proud of. My son had a spelling test the following morning and wanted to practice in the car. I quizzed him on the drive home. He got 11 out of 12. We celebrated the 11. I made dinner, pasta, because it was fast and both children ate it reliably. We sat at the kitchen table, and my daughter told a long, involved story about a disagreement at lunch that had been resolved through the democratic process of rock, paper, scissors, and my son offered his opinion on the fairness of this outcome, and I listened to both of them and responded appropriately, and the kitchen was warm and ordinary and entirely mine. After dinner, I settled them in the living room with their reading. At 6:48, I heard Daniel's car. He came through the front door already talking. "Claire," he stopped. He saw me standing in the kitchen doorway, not moving, not alarmed, not doing anything except waiting for him with my hands still and my expression composed. Something in my stillness registered. He recalibrated. "What is going on with the accounts?" he said, steady, controlled, trying for authority. I walked into the kitchen. He followed. On the kitchen table was a manila folder. I had placed it there an hour ago, precisely centered. Inside was a printed summary document Patricia's office had prepared, not the full evidence package, which was already with the court, but a clean, organized overview, the account freeze orders, the Meridian LLC cross reference, 3 still frames from the video archive, each one dated and time-stamped, printed on plain white paper without comment, and Alina's text screenshot in the lower right corner of the last page where Daniel had told someone whose initial was M that the nanny situation needed to be handled before the end of the quarter. I pushed the folder across the table toward him. He looked at it. He did not touch it. "The accounts are frozen by court order," I said. "The petition was filed last night and confirmed this morning. The documentation covers 22 months of asset transfers to a private entity you incorporated without my knowledge, as well as evidence of marital infidelity documented on the property's own security system." I paused. "The security system you paid for." He was very still. "The asset recovery proceedings are already active," I said. "My attorney will be in contact with yours. The transfers to Meridian Holds will be subject to full dissipation claims." "Where did you—" He stopped. His eyes moved to the folder, to the still frames. Something shifted in his face, not remorse, not yet, but the specific expression of a man rapidly reassessing how exposed he actually is. "Alina." He said her name, the way you say the name of a problem. "Alina," I confirmed. He was quiet for a moment. Then he tried the angle I had expected him to try, because it was the only one left. He leaned forward slightly, voice dropping to something softer, more personal. "Claire, we can talk about this before lawyers make it something neither of us can control. There's a deputy coming at 7, I said. He blinked. "The property injunction grants me sole occupancy pending final proceeding. You'll need to take what you need for the next several days. I'd suggest a bag tonight and arrangements for the rest later through the attorneys." "You can't," he straightened. The soft angle was gone, replaced by something harder. "This is my house. It's a jointly held marital property that you used as the site of sustained infidelity and attempted to leverage for undisclosed financial extraction," I said. "The court has already made a preliminary determination about occupancy. I have the paperwork on the counter if you'd like to review it." He looked at the counter. The paperwork was there exactly as I had said. He didn't move toward it. From the living room, I could hear my daughter's voice explaining something to her brother. the particular cadence of a 7-year-old who has decided she is the authority on a subject. Normal, safe, completely ordinary. Daniel heard it too. Something in him seemed to go very quiet. He picked up the folder from the table. He looked at the first page for a moment. He set it back down without reading further. "I need to get some things," he said. "Of course," I said. He went upstairs. I heard him moving through the bedroom, the closet, the bathroom, the particular sounds of a man packing quickly and without a clear sense of what he actually needs, because the situation he is packing for is one he had not, despite everything, truly planned for. He came back down with a duffel bag at 6:58. He stood in the kitchen doorway for a moment. I was at the counter, my back partially to him, making the children's lunches for the following day. He said my name. I turned around. There was something on his face that I think was genuine, not guilt, not exactly, but something adjacent to it. The look of a person who has reached the end of a very long road they built themselves and is only now standing at its terminus, understanding where it was always going. I looked at him. I didn't say anything, because there was nothing to say that the folder on the table hadn't already said more precisely. The doorbell rang at 7 o'clock exactly. The deputy was professional and quiet, the way people are when they have done a difficult thing often enough that they understand the value of doing it without adding to it. He reviewed the injunction paperwork at the door, confirmed Daniel's identity, and explained the terms of the occupancy order in plain, civil language. Daniel did not argue. He walked out of the front door with his duffel bag over one shoulder and his car keys in his hand, and he did not look back at the house, which I have thought about since, whether that was pride or pain or simply the forward motion instinct of a man who has always moved toward the next thing rather than sitting with the thing he was leaving. The deputy confirmed the order was in effect, handed me a copy of the enforcement log, and left. I closed the front door. The house was quiet. From the living room, my son's voice, "Mom, can you help me with the last 2 words?" "Coming," I said. The divorce proceedings took 6 months. Patricia Sterling was, as advertised, thorough. The Meridian Holds LLC was fully unwound through forensic accounting, and the $231,000 in transferred assets was ruled marital dissipation in its entirety. Daniel was ordered to repay it from his settlement share, which left him, after the calculations were complete, with substantially less than he had apparently planned to secure through the LLC structure he had spent 26 months building. The plan to quietly extract our savings while maintaining the marriage long enough to complete the transfer had not, in the end, accounted for Alina. Most plans I have found fail in exactly that way, not because the plan itself is exposed, but because it requires the silence of someone who turns out not to be silent. The judge awarded me primary custody and full occupancy of the marital property. Daniel was granted scheduled visitation, which he exercised inconsistently in the first months, and then, as the reality of his financial position settled in, with increasing regularity, the children being, it turned out, the one thing in his life that the collapse of everything else had clarified rather than diminished. I am not generous enough to say I was glad about this. I am honest enough to say that my children were. I called Alina 3 weeks after the final hearing. She had taken a position with another family in the interim, a good one from what she said, a younger household, a baby just beginning to walk. She sounded lighter than I had heard her in over a year. The weight she had been carrying was gone, or at least set down. We met for coffee on a Saturday morning, the first frost of the year on the windows of the cafe, the kind of cold morning that makes coffee taste better than it has any right to. I handed her an envelope across the table. She looked at it. "What is this?" "Part of the asset recovery," I said. Patricia identified a legal mechanism for compensating a third-party witness whose testimony contributed materially to the recovery of dissipated assets. I paused. "It's also just what's right." She opened the envelope. She looked at the figure on the check for a long time. When she looked up, her eyes were bright. "You didn't have to. You stayed for a year after you knew," I said. "You protected my children every day while carrying something you never asked to carry. And when he tried to take that from you too, you made a choice that cost you something." I wrapped both hands around my mug. I know what it cost you. She nodded slowly, the way people nod when they're not trusting themselves to speak. We sat for a while after that without talking, which was comfortable in the way. That silence is only comfortable with people who have been through something real together, even if they experienced it from different rooms. Eventually, she asked about the children. I told her about the anglerfish diorama, which had won second place in the school art show. I told her about my son's spelling tests, which he was now consistently acing. I told her that my daughter had asked about her twice, and that I had said she was happy and in a good place, because that appeared to be true. Alina smiled at that. It was the smile I remembered from the early years, the one that went all the way to her eyes without effort. Good, she said, that's good. The house is quieter now in the evenings. Not empty, the children fill it with the reliable, reassuring noise of children who feel safe, arguments about television, requests for snacks at unreasonable hours, the particular sound of small feet on hardwood floors that I had not known until the alternative was possible, how much I would miss if it were gone. The joint spreadsheet is gone. In its place is a single account document, clean and clear, every number belonging to a life I understand completely because I built it and I am the only one who has to answer for it. On Friday evenings, I sometimes sit in the kitchen after the children are asleep, with a cup of tea and the particular stillness of a house that has been through something and come out the other side of it. The oak floors, the cabinet hardware, the window above the sink that faces the backyard where the light comes in, clean and uncomplicated in the mornings. Mine, all of it simply and completely mine. Alina had asked me at the coffee shop if I was all right. I had thought about it honestly before I answered, because she deserved an honest answer more than a reassuring one. I think I will be, I said. She nodded like she already knew. She probably did. She usually did.